And so on that fateful afternoon, with me standing here in the doorway and 6 of my friends on the back of the boat, the entire engine room exploded. Hey guys, I'm gonna tell you all about the time back in 2011 when this very houseboat, the one we've been restoring on the channel, blew up and injured some of my friends, and it was all my fault. This is gonna be part of a video series we'll call Kyle's Idiotic Boating Stories that maybe you'll learn something from or maybe not. Knowing what happened to our boat back then might save you or someone you know from getting hurt, so let me walk you guys through it. So to start, we've gotta go back in time to 2008.
From the window, there's nothing for you there. There's nothing for you there. Frost is growing on the glass where you left your face. Pick it up and we can
see, the Enigma ended up on the news back in 2008 because it was in a tornado that hit a marina and it was so badly damaged, we bought the thing cheap, $6,500.
Rolled through Lake Texoma packing a punch. The weather tossed boats and brought down boat houses. Mary Joseph tells us the weather is wearing on businesses getting ready for the busy boating season.
2 boathouses and this houseboat were totaled.
And then we spent the next couple years fixing the houseboat up. So by the time 2011 rolled around, I was pretty comfortable piloting the houseboat. I thought I knew all the systems pretty well. We thought we had it all figured out. So now it's September 2011, and we needed to fuel the houseboat up, so we set sail for the Marina gas dock about 2 miles away. Now, it was a beautiful day out on the lake, so it wasn't very windy, it was sunny, and we arrived at the marina. We didn't have any issues getting the boat docked up next to the gas pumps. The owner of the marina was a man named Tom, and he always worked the gas dock, and he would come out, and the first thing he'd always ask you is, what type of fuel do you want?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Y'all want regular or you want super? Super unleaded. Hey, Tom, we'll just use regular unleaded on the old houseboat. It doesn't need anything fancy.
But after that, he asked me one fateful question that I had the worst answer to.
You gonna turn your generator off or you gonna leave it running? Nah, we'll leave the generator running this time. Hey, Cody, y'all don't forget to pump slow with them handles so it don't backwash gas all over you.
Hey, we got you covered, man. Go find your wallet.
So I went to the front of the boat to try and find my wallet, and here's the reason I told Cody to pump slow with those fuel nozzles.
I'm down here in the engine room of the houseboat now. So there were 2 problems. One, at this marina, all of the gas pump nozzles, the little lever here that you normally can use to set the thing and leave it alone, these levers were gone. It meant you had to stand there the whole time holding this thing. Problem number 2, no matter what you did, if you went too fast pumping fuel into the houseboat here, it would gurgle and blow fuel back out all over you, on your arms, on your feet. So you had to go really slow, just barely kind of get this thing going.
So the houseboat has 2 fuel tanks, 1 port, 1 starboard. They're about 80 gallons each, and they each have their own fuel filler right above the tanks. Cody and his brother each took a tank to fill up, and even though we talked about going slow with those fuel nozzles, some fuel still backwashed out and got on their arms and legs.
Now that, you may think had something to do with the houseboat blowing up, but it didn't.
So while I was up here on the bridge looking for my wallet, I started to hear the generator surging. The RPM was going up and down, and I thought something is bogging that generator down. So I decided to turn the power off to the boat. I came up here to the master cutoff switch, and I switched the generator power off. That basically kills power to the entire circuit panel here. So the air conditioners, the TV, the fridge, all the lights turned off in the boat, and the generator keeps running at this point, but with no load on it, and even still, the RPM was still going up and down. And then it started dropping lower and lower, and I stood here in the doorway listening to the generator RPM go down, down, lower and lower, and then finally, the generator stopped. And the instant the generator stopped, the explosion happened. I felt a shockwave come through the boat, and it blew my hair back standing here in the doorway, and I knew something bad had happened at the back of the boat. Becky and Michaela had been thrown up into the air because they were standing on top of one of the engine hatches, and they'd been thrown into the air and landed on their backs. Cody's brother had fuel on his hand, and he immediately caught on fire and was burning so bad he couldn't put it out, so he went and jumped off in the water. Cody dove off in the water after his brother. So while Cody was in the water helping his brother, he said he remembered looking back at the houseboat from the water, and all he remembers is seeing Ricky on top of the boat and flames all down below him. So I ran down into the living room of the houseboat to get the fire extinguisher that we kept under the stairs, and when I turned around to try and fight the fire, all I saw was a wall of flames, and the smoke was getting so bad, so I had to get out of there. I ran to the back of the houseboat to fight the fire from outside the engine room, and Tom, the Marina owner, was bringing every fire extinguisher that he could find from inside the gas station. So over the next few minutes, we used up 3 or 4 fire extinguishers, and we finally got the fire put out.
Now, Cody's brother was burned so bad on his hand, when they pulled him out of the water, some of his skin peeled off, so he was off to the hospital to get that dealt with. Luckily, everyone else had just minor burns. And I'll never forget the last thing Tom said to me. He turned and said, "Well, I bet you'll turn your damn generator off next time." And he turned and walked away. Well, you can't see it now because they got new gas pumps, but this one is one of the original ones. And here, I've probably got a picture of it somewhere, but here's where the sign said something like "turn all engines off." It's faded and gone now, but they put these signs up because of me. Because right here, here's where we blew her on up. You just remember getting blown up and, well, your foot got burnt?
Yeah, my mom Supermaned me over the edge of the houseboat.
Into the water?
No,
or just
right
on
here,
the dock?
Onto the dock.
Oh, she just helped throw you onto the dock?
Yeah.
Did your mom's foot get burnt?
Yeah, hers looked like the flame, remember?
It looked like the flame?
Yeah, it looked like fire going
What?
up her leg.
Oh,
Yeah.
tell her I'm sorry again.
I've only got like a 5-second shaky video from that day, but I've got a few pictures, and you can see just how violent that explosion was. So the back wall totally blown apart from the explosion. The stairs got thrown across the living room. The picture frames on the wall got blown apart from the shockwave. So the entire living room of the houseboat was pretty much trashed. I still have the old TV that we used to have hanging on the wall right here, and the heat was so bad coming through the living room, the back of the TV melted. Now the TV still worked after that. Here is the actual generator that blew the houseboat up. So we know the houseboat blew up, but why did it actually happen? Here is the sequence of events. On each side here, where these panels used to go, this is where the fuel filler hoses come into the gas tanks. So unbeknownst to us, the fuel filler hose behind the port side wall here had split in two. Cody's brother, unfortunately, because that fuel filler hose was broken, he was pumping gas and almost all of it was just pouring into the engine room here, filling the entire thing. So this old generator is carbureted, and normally it's breathing in regular air from the engine room through the carburetor where it gets its fuel mixed in. Well, because we had poured so much fuel into the engine room from that broken filler hose, now instead of regular air, it's getting this dense fuel vapor. So now you've got way too rich of a condition. That caused the generator to start fluctuating in RPM, and that's why when I disconnected the electrical load from the generator, it didn't matter. It was still getting so much fuel vapor to the point where the engine died. So now we know why the generator died, but when it died, why did it blow the engine room up? In the control box for this generator, there's these two relays here, and when the generator's running, the contacts close, and when the generator's not running, the contacts open up, and it generates a little spark here. Well, there's supposed to be a cover that goes over these. There's the little standoff right here you can see, and I guess at some point over the years it must have fallen apart, and because I didn't know anything about a 20-year-old Kohler generator, I didn't know there's supposed to be a cover over these. So fuel vapor gets into the vents here on the control box. When the generator finally dies, the contacts open up, and a little spark, and kaboom. So it's obvious I should have shut the generator down to keep the engine room from blowing up while we're filling the houseboat up with fuel. But the interesting thing about this scenario is we have dumped so much fuel into the engine room at this point, even if the generator wasn't running, I think we still would have blown the houseboat up, because after we got done filling the houseboat up with fuel, I would have walked right back up to the bridge,
went to start the generator, start the main engines, and we probably would have blown the houseboat up anyway. In accident investigations, they'll talk a lot about a Swiss cheese model, where each slice of cheese represents something that could be done to prevent an accident, and the holes in those slices of cheese represent flaws in it. And it's only if you get all of those holes lined up in the slices of cheese that an accident can happen. So the idea is you get enough of these defenses lined up, and hopefully something along the way will always stop an accident from happening. So there's 6 things we do now to prevent this from happening on the houseboat, so let me run through them and see what you guys think. So number 1 is pretty simple. Turn off all the engines and generators when you're fueling up your boat. The second thing you can do is check your fuel lines at regular intervals, and that includes the fuel filler hoses, which most people probably don't normally check. Now the flaw in this one is some hoses might be hard to see, so when the engines were in here, you could not see that fuel filler hose at all. In fact, from here, even with the engines out, you can only see the first, I don't know, like 4 inches of it. So what I'm gonna do when we restore the boat is these panels here I'm gonna make removable. So at least I can come back here every so often, pull the panel off, check the hose. The third thing you can do is run your bilge blowers to get the fumes out of the engine room before you start your engines up. We still use these because it's good practice too, but if you've got that much fuel in the engine room, it's not gonna get it all out, but it's still good to do. The fourth thing you can do is wire in a fuel vapor sensor, kind of at the lowest spot of the bilge, and when it senses fuel vapors, you'll get an audible alarm that goes off. The flaw in this one is you're trusting the sensor to work. So, you know, like the smoke alarms in your house, they don't last forever, so the sensor might go out. I think they're good. They're not perfect though. All right, the fifth thing you can do is pretty easy. Keep everyone off of your boat when you're filling it up and when you're starting the engines back up. That one's pretty easy for me because my friends got blown up, so they just get off the boat immediately once we get to the gas dock anyway. All right, and lastly, number 6, I think this is the best thing you can do, and it worked for us for the past 10 years. Before I start the engines up, I just come over to the engine room, open up the hatches, get down in there, smell and look for vapor fumes, and then I'll leave the hatches open while I go and start the main engines, start the generator up. And so by doing that, it's almost impossible to blow up your engine room if you open the hatches and get down there and smell and look for fuel vapors. I really think if you line up these 6 safety items, even if you mess a few of them up, at least one of them should stop you from having a bad accident like we did. All right, you guys let me know if you've got any tips or tricks to prevent something like this from happening. You know, there's a picture of me sitting in the doorway of the houseboat on this particular day, looking like an idiot with my long hair. Don't be that guy. Don't be me. Don't blow your friends up. Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out with me. We'll see you all next time.